What began as a dispute between two actors turned into the bloodiest night in American theater history. The event, which came to be known as the Astor Place Riot, was a result of patriotic fervor fueled by anti-British sentiment, pitting the lower classes who championed the American actor Edwin Forrest against the English actor William Charles Macready, favored by New York's elitist upper ten. Following a disturbance on Monday, May 7th, in which Macready had been forced from the stage by a flying chair, the actor had no intention of continuing his engagement in New York. However, a letter presented to him the next day and printed in the newspapers was signed by 48 notable New York names. The letter begged him not to let the rabble of New York have the final say, and for him to return to the stage. Feeling an obligation to his public, Macready agreed to appear again at the Opera House on Friday. The proprietors of the theater convinced him to return one day earlier, on Thursday, May 10th. Opponents not only of the upper ten, but also the newly installed mayor, Captain Isaiah Renders and E.Z.C. Judson, were part of New York's infamous Tammany Hall political machine. Upon hearing of Macready's impending return, Renders and Judson began distributing flyers throughout the city with plans to keep Macready from finishing another performance. Macready would later recount the day's events in his journal.
May 10th, the recorder called Mr. Talmadge and assured me that every measure should be taken to ensure the tranquility of the house tonight. Spoke with Messrs. Sefton and Chippendale, expressing my own opinion that there would not be the slightest demonstration of opposition. They thought there might be a hiss or two at the beginning, but that it could instantly be silenced. I went gaily, I may say, to the theatre, and on my way looking down Astor Place, saw one of the Harlem cars on the railroad stop and discharge a full load of policemen. There seemed to be others at the door of the theatre. I observed to myself, this is a good precaution. The managers were delaying the beginning, and I was unwilling to be behind the exact hour. My reception was very enthusiastic, but I soon discovered that there was opposition, though less numerously named than on Monday. I went right home when I found that it would not instantly be quelled, looking at the wretched creatures in the parquet who shook their fists violently at me and called out to me in savage fury. I laughed at them, pointing them out with my truncheon to the police, who, I feared, were about to repeat the inertia of the previous evening. I was in the act of making my exit with Lady Macbeth. As well as I can remember, the bombardment outside now began. Stones were hurled against the windows in 8th Street, smashing many. The work of destruction became more systematic. The volleys of stones flew without intermission, battering and smashing all before them. The gallery and upper gallery still kept up the din within, aided by the crashing glass and boarding without. Mr. Povey, as I was going to my raised seat in the banquet scene, came up to me and, in an undertone, much frightened, urged me to cut out some part of the play and bring it to a close. I turned round him very sharply, and I said that I had consented to do this thing, to place myself here, and whatever the consequences, I must go through with it. It must be done. That it could not cut out. The audience had paid for so much, and the law compelled me to give it. They would have caused for riot if it were not all properly done. I was angry, and spoke very sharply to the above effect. The fifth act was heard, and in the very spirit of resistance I flung my whole soul into every word I uttered, acting my very best and exciting the audience to a sympathy even with the glowing words of fiction, whilst these dreadful deeds of real crime and outrage were roaring at intervals in our ears and rising to madness all round us. The death of Macbeth was loudly cheered, and on being lifted up and told that I was called, I went on, and with action earnestly and most emphatically expressive of my sympathy with them and my feelings of gratefulness to them, I quitted the New York stage among the acclamations of those before me. People came into my room, consternation on the faces of some, fear, anxiety, and distress on those of others. The mob were getting stronger. Why were the military not sent for? They were here. Where? Why did they not act? They were not here. They were drawn up in the Bowery. Of what good were they? Other arrivals. The military had come up on the ground. Why did they not disperse the mob there? These questions and answers, with many others, were passed to and fro among persons round me whilst I was finishing my hasty toilet, I occasionally putting in a question or a remark. Suddenly, we heard a volley of musketry. "Hark! What's that?" I asked. "The soldiers have fired. My God!" I exclaimed. Another volley, and another. News came that several were killed, and I was really insensible to the degree of danger in which I stood, and saw at once, there being no avoidance, there was nothing for it but to meet the worst with dignity, and so I stood, prepared.